Hi, it's Heather from Strings and Threads. Thank you so much for being here today, and thank you for all of you who reached out to me and sent me well wishes. Our family, if you've been following me, you know that our family has COVID right now, or my family. It's your family too. We all have COVID right now. The first day that I tested positive, I felt okay. I just kind of felt like I had a very mild cold. And then yesterday I felt miserable and I just stayed in bed and slept all day. And then even this morning through like mid-afternoon, I just kind of stayed in bed. It's nice that we're taking the time to quarantine and not put anything extra on our plates right now. So we've just allowed ourselves the time to sleep and rest and give ourselves what we need, drinking lots of water. So it's kind of affected each of us differently. Some of us still are not feeling that great and others are starting to feel a lot better. But I'm just kind of taking it day by day, and I looked up the recommended for my state, the recommended, time to stay home when you have COVID. So none of us are going anywhere until Thursday at the earliest. So it's kind of, it's not nice to be sick, but it's nice that we can take that time to get better, because I feel like a lot of times when people get sick, including myself, you're just in such a rush to get back to work, to life, to everything you need to do, and you don't really take the proper time to fully heal before you do that. I'm talking about myself too. I know I said you, but I just mean I think it happens to a lot of us. So I'm just taking that time right now. So all of us, since we're friends here, we start with a question of the day, and they're not mandatory. This is all really just for fun and just for us to get to know each other, because I know I've said this in so many videos, but I really do consider you guys my friends. And that's not just, not just idle talk. I really do. A lot of you I've really grown very fond of and very close to. And I appreciate you all coming back here and growing your friendships with me. I feel like this is more of a community than just me preaching to the world or something like that. I never wanted it to be like that anyway, because I'm not really that kind of person, where I'm bubbly, giggly, outgoing, preachy type of person. I just am who I am, and I love that you guys accept me for that. Thank you so much. Well, today's question is, what do you think the most ridiculous name for a child would be? And what made me think of this question was that, oh my gosh, quite a number of years back, I read a book called Freakonomics. And just for some reason, while I've been laying around, I thought about that book while I was just laying around. And it was a book that I really enjoyed. It's not like a story book, but it just talks about economics in a very fun way, because I'm not really like one to sit down and read an economics book. I'm really most likely like to sit down and read a good story. But my husband knew about this book, and we read it. We ended up reading it together. It was before we had kids. I want to say it was somewhere in the early 2000s. And it was written in a way that I think anybody could enjoy it. But one of the chapters was, does what you are named affect who you become as a grown-up? And I found that chapter so fascinating. And I always kind of wondered, because I had like a trendy name. Heather back in the 70s and 80s was just so popular. I think there were 13 Heathers in my graduating class, something like that. So it was just a trendy name. And I don't know if any of you know about the movie Heathers, but that just kind of gave, in my opinion, it gave people an impression of who Heathers were. And in the movie, the Heathers were all blonde with the perfectly curled hair and popular and snooty patooties and just perfect. And so I don't know if it was just me thinking this, but sometimes I felt like when people would say, what's your name? And I'd say Heather, I'd almost get an eye roll like, oh, you're one of them. And I'm like, no, I was a nerd. I was a bandy. I didn't ever have blonde hair. So, I don't know. I guess that's part of the reason why it fascinated me, because I was like, does what your name affect you? And ultimately it said no, and they gave many examples. There were some really crazy names out there. Like there were people who had twins and they named one, it's spelled lemon jello, and the other one is spelled orange jello, but they pronounced it lamangelo and orangelo. And then there was another kid that they followed who was, the name was spelled Shithhead, but it was pronounced Shatid. And that one kind of like grabbed me, because I was a teacher at the time. As a teacher, I couldn't imagine doing attendance and seeing that name on my list. I think it would stress me out. I would have been like, Mr. So-and-so, because I don't think I would have wanted to say that first name. And then the one that they talked about the most was, there was a couple that had two boys. One was named Winner and one was named Loser. And it turns out in the end that the one they named Loser, as an older, as a teenager, started going by the nickname Lou, and ended up being police chief and very successful, and people loved him. And then his brother Winner apparently was in and out of jail. But ultimately they did a study, and if it's an economics book, it was a good study where they found that ultimately what your name does not affect your ability to succeed in life. So I don't know. I found, again, the name of the book was Freakonomics. I don't remember who wrote it, but if you were interested in anything like that, I'm sure you could find it on Amazon or in a bookstore or somewhere like that. I found the book to be very fascinating. And like I said, I'm not really one to be like, oh, I'm going to sit down and read an economics book or anything like that. But it was a really good movie, or not movie, book. So I wanted to show you something that I've been working on, and it's a free pattern. I'm going to show you on my device here so you can see how it looks, because you can't tell from what I have done so far. It's on a website called endpcrochet.com, but it is this hoodie right here. I just thought it was beautiful. So I'm not too far along in it, but I started this for myself. I am not really all that great at making wearables. I mean, other than like hat, scarf, and shawl. But I have in my mind, we'll see how it turns out. You might be seeing a failure of mine later on. But in my mind, I could see that as being a gorgeous sweater. And so I kind of have an idea in my mind of how I can make that longer and give it sleeves and turn it into a sweater, a hooded sweater. I don't know if it will work or not. Sometimes I get crazy ideas in my head and they work, sometimes they don't. But I'm using, this is one cake of this, by the way. This is Karen Marble Cakes by Yarnspirations, and the color is Rosewater Plum. And you can see, like, they have you work from the bottom up. So this would be the bottom, and then I hate to put it on because it probably looks weird, but it might give you a better idea of it. And then this will come up. It's not quite long enough yet. And then it'll come together, and this will be the hooded part. Obviously, it's not long enough yet, so that looks ridiculous if I were to finish it there. But imagine it longer, and then that's where the hood would be. But in my mind, I'm going to pick up on the bottom, and if I can be successful, I'm going to turn it into a sweater with sleeves. So we'll see. That's a long-term project that I've just been working on here and there. And then I have another project that I've started. And usually, like, if I look at characters, somebody had asked me to make them a specific character, amigurumi, and it's going to be a surprise for Christmas, so I don't want to show what I have so far. Plus, it's not really looking all that great right now, so I don't want to show it because of that reason as well. But a lot of times when I see a character, for some reason I can just say, okay, I know how to make that. Like when I made that Tree Man dice bag, it's to represent, you know, somebody. But for some reason I looked at that, I'm like, okay, I know how to make that. Well, I looked at this character and I thought, oh, I could do that. Oh my gosh, I pulled it apart probably at least 3 or 4 times, and I've only worked on the head. So I'm hoping that I can work out all the kinks in that and show you that shortly. Other than that, I haven't been working on a whole lot, and I haven't done, yesterday I didn't do any crocheting, and today up to this point I haven't done any crocheting. I just really wanted to pop on and say hi and thank you guys for, you know, caring so much for me. I got so many messages from people saying, get better, you know, don't worry about coming on. And I really appreciate that. I mean, despite my voice being raspy, I do feel a lot better, just very tired. So I hope everybody's doing well, and I hope you have a good night. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.